Hi, I'm Teresa and welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing my fourth episode of my series Sapphic Reads. So if you haven't seen the first three, they will be linked in the description. And so I just want to start this video with just a little note. I want the series to kind of focus on recommending and promoting books. So therefore, when I'm talking about the books, I'm going to be focusing on positives. I'll give a synopsis and positives, things I like, talking about it very positively, like a recommendations video rather than a wrap-up video in terms of format. I already only did books I had rated 3 stars and above. I'm going to be slightly more picky with some of my 3 stars just because I want it to be all books I'm very excited about. And so it will no longer be every single Sapphic book I've read, but it'll be the vast majority. And it just means I'll be talking about all the ones that I well and truly really love and really highly recommend. So you'll find full reviews for all of these except for one down below, and you will also hear all my honest thoughts in my wrap up. So yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that this series is different to my wrap ups in terms of format, because for example my last video was the exact same as my July wrap up, and I filmed them at the same time and then didn't post the third episode for a few months because it was so similar. So I'm just trying to make sure I don't do that again. So the first book I want to recommend is The Reckless Afterlife of Harriet Stoker by Lauren James. So this is a ghost story and I really enjoyed it. I read an arc of it through NetGalley. So this follows a main character called Harriet Stoker, and she's exploring in abandoned halls of residence at her university. She trips, she falls, and she dies in quite a tragic accident. And when she wakes up in the afterlife, she's surrounded by ghosts. And this includes dozens that all died in their sleep about 25 years before. All very mysteriously, very suddenly, and it's this kind of local lore, like it's this thing that people kind of know about and they're kind of like, how did it happen? Because they don't all believe the kind of official ruling. And so that's also why it's abandoned. Anyway, she wakes up and she begins a reckless afterlife. She's determined that she's going to leave and that she is going to go home and see her grandmother, who's now all on her own. And she also realizes that her parents died at her grandmother's house, so maybe their ghosts are there, because your ghost is stuck where you died. And she's very determined to do this, and she's quite a morally grey character. She will do whatever it takes. And so she also discovers that ghosts all kind of develop powers, and she is also very determined to discover what hers is and how it will help her get home. So yeah, this book is so morally grey. It's so good. I really did enjoy it. This book is sapphic because you have a pansexual main character, and your kind of main group of characters, they are very diverse. You've got queer characters, character of colour, all of that right at the forefront, and I really enjoyed this. I found the characters so vivid, and honestly the book as a whole, the plot, the storyline, the atmosphere, it's also immersive. And I read it so fast. I was reading like 100 pages at a time. And as I said before, I am a slow reader and I struggle with that, with getting distracted. But no, with this book I was just flying through it. It was so just addicting. So this book, it gets dark. It is this kind of supernatural thriller mystery, and you've got an omniscient narrator in between kind of Harriet's narration and the narration of some of the other main characters, and you're trying to figure out who they are and what they're talking about. It builds such a tense kind of atmosphere. You just need to know what happens. It's so well written in that regard. And yeah, it gets dark. I don't want to say too much because it is very much a book you should go into not knowing huge amounts, but whew. So the next book I want to talk about is a new favourite of mine. It's one that I just adored with everything in me, and that is The Scapegracers by Hannah Abigail Clark. I originally read this as an arc through NetGalley, but obviously I've since acquired my own copy, and whew, I've talked about this in a few previous videos because just I love it so much. It's so good. I so highly recommend it. I also highly recommend you read my review because I worked very hard on it. It is, in my opinion, a very good review. And if you want to know more about the characters, definitely do check it out. I went in depth on the characters because they were just my favourite part. I wanted to talk about them and just share my love for them. But anyway, this follows a main character called Sideways Pike, and she is a teenage lesbian witch. So she's quite content just doing little magic tricks and being very much at the bottom of kind of high school popularity scale or whatever. And this all starts to change when the three popular girls of the school invite her to perform a magic trick at their Halloween party. They take Halloween parties very seriously here. And so she does, and stuff happens. It's all very dramatic. So sideways, and these three popular girls, you've got Ying, Yates, and Daisy. They all become kind of wrapped up in this mystery, and they all very much start to become friends. And this book focuses so much on their friendship, and I loved it so much. It is so gorgeous, so well done. This is the kind of all-consuming friendship that I absolutely crave. It's so good, and I just loved reading it in a book. This focus on girl friendship, so good. So yeah, they're all trying to figure out this mystery of what happened that night because Sido's magic trick had gone a bit weird, and she'd passed out after, and Yates had disappeared after, and they discover her in the morning lying in the empty pool outside with two dead deer. And all she remembers is that there was this guy that kind of put her in that situation. And so they're trying to figure out what the fuck happened to her because the girls are very protective of her and of each other, but especially of Yates. And so there's just like some good teen friendship, high school stuff. You've also got the witchy stuff. Work Sideways is working out her magic, and the girls start to form a coven. And you've also got witch hunters on the go. You've got so much, and it is so good, so fun. Yeah, I could wax poetic about this book for ages. Let's try and keep it short. The writing style is something I also just adored, and there's excerpts of that in my review, but it was just this kind of gothic, intricate writing, but very much the narration of a teenage girl. And it just worked so well, and I loved it an awful lot. There is a bit of a romance. I'm not going to say too much about it, but it's also a good fun time. The main thing I want to emphasize about this book is the power of female friendship and of kind of toppling these tropes that you find so often, particularly in YA, like the competitive mean girls and the not like other girls idea. This book deals with them and kind of turns them on their head so well, and just creates this idea of this ultra supportive friend group, this kind of unconditional, unflinching love for each other, and it is incredible, and it's something I want to see so much more of in YA, and I'm very happy it exists and very excited to read the sequel next year. The next book I want to talk about is Cute Mutants by S.J. Whitby. So the author was kind enough to send me a copy of this book, and it was a lot of fun to read. So this follows a main character called Dylan, and she's like this massive X-Men super fan. And one day she woke up with powers. And her powers are a bit useless, to be honest. They're a bit shit. She can talk to inanimate objects, and so her pillow is overly invested in her love life, and like her alarm clock's an annoying bastard, stuff like that. And obviously, she's not the only one. She discovers that when she'd gone to a party about a week before the book starts, she had kissed this girl, and this girl had kissed a few other people, and all of them had woken up with powers the next day. And so they begin to form this kind of super queeros, because they're all queer. It's such a queer book. This kind of superhero, like little gang working on their powers. It's all very sweet. And of course, as superhero stories go, you need a good villain, and you have got one. And so someone is going around town creating earthquakes to like rob places and settle some scores. And so Dylan and her band of wee pals decide that they are going to try and stop them. And yeah, it's very much a fun time. It's got this lovely comic book feel to it. So I'd say the most significant maybe part of this book is the narration. You've got this kind of stream of consciousness narration from Dylan, and it is absolutely full of pop culture references, and you feel like you get very connected to her character through that. And you've also got all the other characters and this kind of queer group, which was also just an incredible part of the book. So this includes Dylan's boyfriend, who is trans. You have got um, a few other characters, different sexualities. It's all fab. They've all got these kind of bit useless powers, but I really enjoyed seeing them, learning how to use them, and also learning how to exist together as this group. This book has taken this very well known, very almost overdone idea of someone waking up with superpowers and having to save the day, and just made it very unique and original through useless powers and queer found fam and teen drama, and it's so good. It's such a good start to a series, and I really do recommend it, particularly if you're a fan of superheroes and comic books, because I think it is just comic book but in prose. That's exactly what it is. The next book I read was Who I Was With Her by Anita Tyndall. This is another one that I read as an ARC through the publisher, and I also just very much enjoyed this one. This book very much exceeded my expectations. And so this follows a main character called Corinne, and she learns very suddenly of her girlfriend's death. She's died in an accident. This happens just right before the book starts. And so you're following Corinne of her kind of journey through her grief. And so Corinne and Maggie were dating in secret because Corinne wasn't out and she was just absolutely terrified of being out. She is bisexual, but she's very scared of judgment, not just for her sexuality, but for everything about her. This is something she wrestles with during the book. And so you've got a very important narrative I found around the idea of coming out. And because Corinne wasn't out and she's still too scared to go out, she has to grieve Maggie's death in secret because no one knew that they're together, no one knew that they even knew each other. They were track stars from rival teams, and she shouldn't really even know her. And this book very much did exceed my expectations because I have this idea that such a sad book like this, it's going to be very slow paced, and this book was not. It was so fast paced, so engaging. I very much just flew through it. You have these flashback chapters to Maggie and Corinne's relationship, and just a very fast paced present timeline as well. And this book does have several heavy topics that it deals with, but I felt that it handled them very, very sensitively. Another thing I loved about this book was how real and very human the depiction of grief and of the characters was. It was messy, it just wasn't perfect. None of these characters were perfect. And I love that. I love unperfect characters so much. And I just love getting into the messiness of it. And it was just very honest, very raw in its portrayal. And yeah, it was just such a good read, tackling, like high school pressures put on teenagers. Obviously, the grief. You've got Corinne coming from some family issues. You've got issues with her friends. You've just got so much, and it's all wrapped up so nicely in this one little book, dealt with so well, and just a completely engaging book. I do very much highly recommend it. It was such a good read. And I also just loved that at its very, very core, this book had that message of self acceptance and of the importance of it. And that that's such a powerful message, and it's one that I love seeing in books. So this was just incredible. So the final book I want to talk about today is a graphic novel called Mooncakes by Suzanne Walker and Wendy Zhu. So Mooncakes is just the absolute perfect spooky read, Halloween read. So this video is maybe slightly late, but you know what? You can keep the spooky season going. I believe in you. So this book follows a main character called Nova, and she encounters her childhood best friend who had to leave when they were quite young, called Tam, and they are a werewolf. And this book is absolutely full of diversity. It is so good. So Nova is Chinese American and she is sapphic, and she also wears a hearing aid. She's hard of hearing, and this is such a significant part of the book, and I love that you can see in all the panels when you see her. It's very, very obvious, and I really enjoyed that being such a major part of the book as well. And you've got Tam, who is a childhood best friend, and so they are a non-binary werewolf, which is also very cool. And I think all the main characters in this book are people of colour, and Nova's grandmothers who have raised her, they're together, they're sapphic. I love it. And so yeah, this is just this lovely, heartwarming book full of diversity, and it's just so light-hearted. I very much recommend if you just want a quick light read. So Tam is being hunted by some kind of demon, and so they're trying to deal with that on their own, but obviously Nova meets up with him again and goes, no, we're gonna help, because she comes from a family of witches, she's a witch herself. And yeah, it's just all working together to solve Tam's problem, and some romance between Nova and Tam, which I just adored. It was so good. Everything's just so accepting. It oh, it is a gorgeous book. The art's gorgeous. I love the colours and how they kind of felt very fall. And so yeah, it's so good. I very highly recommend it. I need to read more graphic novels. I've not read very many, but I do really enjoy them when I do. And so yeah, maybe look out for some more graphic novel recs and upcoming Sapphic Reads videos. I have a few on my radar. But yeah, that is it for this video. So if you have enjoyed, please leave a like, a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and remember that you can check out reviews for all of these except mooncakes down below. And yeah, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you with another video soon.